Awakening and Grand Rising. It is I, Kaneem Mafa. 7 years ago, almost 8 in December, I birthed a spiritual practice called Laylim Layler, which means let him, let her. Certainly, there's nothing new under the sun. There's multiple different ways to practice wholeness, but the way that I practice wholeness specifically is called Laylim Layler. Laylim Layler is the acknowledgement of wholeness. We are our mothers and our fathers, and we are those who did not subscribe to gender constructs before. We are the ones who don't feel the need to label ourselves, but we are also the ones who understand why some of us do need to label ourselves. As a being who sits at multiple tables and feels welcomed and respected in multiple communities, I wanted to start creating a language that was fluid and that could be used by beings who are outside of the gates of the LGBT community, and also those who belong to the cis and the heterosexual community, because the only way we're going to heal as a collective is if we start to create language that doesn't give off this energy of you can't sit with me. Language that is abstract enough to hold all of us. As a person who's lived in the LGBTQIA plus community, is very familiar with the community, I am still struggling with what gay means, and also is it an umbrella term, because I feel oftentimes it's used as an umbrella term, and I don't see gay as an umbrella term. Oftentimes the gays have pushed out trans people, they've pushed out non-binary people, and the proof is in the anti-trans legislation bills that are stacking up daily. Like, if we are under the umbrella of gay, then why is the gay community not doing more for trans and non-binary people? The truth is, gay people do not owe trans and non-binary people a thing, but creating language that continues to intentionally include us when it brings more validity to your identity is diabolical. More specifically, the identification of your sexuality. The reason why I'm saying this is because the other day I was watching a short film about the Orisha and how this gay black scholar was trying to talk about the Orisha, and was talking about the Orishas who were gay, and not gay as in a male sleeping with another male, which is what we understand it to mean today specifically, or homosexual sex, but using the term gay to speak about beings who are able to occupy both sexes, not both genders, both sexes, beings who are able to manifest as either male or female, or male and female simultaneously. This is an entirely different conversation than men who are sleeping with men and women who are sleeping with women. And so it creates confusion when the gay community tries to bring validity to their identities on a more ancient scale by being inclusive of trans and gender non-conforming people when it is convenient for them. Wholeness, when we talk about wholeness, that makes space for gay people, that makes space for lesbian people, that makes space for people who identify as heterosexual, people who identify as cisgender, people who identify as trans, people who identify as non-binary, because wholeness looks different on us. We are not all genetically the same, so our wholeness is not going to look the same. We are all different recipes for wholeness. Our genetics, our DNA speaks to that recipe. Now, we do create new words to use within Laylim Layler as a practice. But when I talk about creating language, I'm more so talking about the ways in which we currently engage with this language, the English language, that is more expansive and doesn't cause us to necessarily have to use labels that can be oftentimes used to divide us and pit us against each other through gender baiting and race baiting and propaganda. Now, I will be clear. We do speak about halflings. We do speak about punks and punkettes. Punks and punkettes speak to where you are in your journey of acceptance of your wholeness, your masculine and your feminine. We talk about punks and punkettes, that is sort of like the caterpillar stage of accepting your wholeness, embracing your divinity, embracing your dual nature. So the punk and punkette stage is that. If you have not even begun to accept it and you're still in denial about being whole and being connected to your mothers and your fathers and those who did not subscribe to gender, then we call you a halfling. But you do have access, and you don't have to necessarily become gay. You don't have to necessarily become trans. You don't have to necessarily become non-binary in order to embrace wholeness, to evolve past being a punk. These are mental elevations. Oftentimes, mental elevations start to manifest physically, but they don't necessarily have to. And so I feel that it's worthwhile to have an in-depth conversation about why the gay community feels the need. They even do this in the Bible with the word eunuch. Eunuch means a castrated male. Now, oftentimes, gay men will claim that language for themselves, but the definition of a eunuch is a castrated male. And when a male is castrated, they start to carry their weight differently. They start to look differently. They start to have more feminine qualities about themselves. But gay men have often used the term eunuch to describe them and some type of religious backed acceptance. That is my struggle with when we talk about beings like Obatala, who had as many female existences as male existences. When we talk about Yemaya and Olukum, what's fascinating for me is they say that Olukum and Yemaya are not the same, but in the stories, Yemaya created the ocean. The ocean came from Yemaya. So without Yemaya, there would have been no deep for Olukum to exist in. And so for a person who is intellectual and asks questions, when Yemaya cried, did Yemaya birth the masculine aspect of herself and buried it deep down in the depths? Like, so when they tell the story of Olukum and Yemaya, they say that Olukum and Yemaya can be siblings, they can be partners, and they can also be two halves of a whole, which means an androgynous being. So when we're understanding things in that way, that's not gay. That's wholeness. When we start talking about deities who are androgynous, this is not a gay conversation, although it can hold gay. Gay is not holding it. It is holding gay. Trans is not holding it. It is holding trans. Non-binary is not holding it. It is holding non-binary. Cisgendered and heterosexual and all those things, wholeness holds all of those things. Those things do not hold wholeness. Gay is a facet. Gay is a dimension. Trans is a dimension. Non-binary is a dimension. Cisgender, heterosexual, these are dimensions. These are aspects. These are archetypes of wholeness. And so the conversation needs to be reframed. It's been hyper heterosexual for the past eon. I get it. Creating the same vicious cycle is not creating collective healing. Like, if the goal is collective healing, then we shouldn't be trying to take a play out of the same book. A lot of people are making comments about how MAGA and the Trump administration is taking a play out of Hitler's book. Well, what is the LGBT community? What is the LGBTQIA community doing differently by creating these labels when gay is not holding it? What's holding it is wholeness. We are whole. We all have the capacity to embody wholeness. We all have the capacity to connect with the divine that is within ourselves if we wake up from the sleep. If we're not afraid to embrace our mothers and our fathers and our foremothers and our forefathers and those who did not subscribe to these labels, if we embrace those things that are in our DNA and we do that work. As I prepare to turn 48, I am preparing myself to use language that is not purposely dividing us. Now, I am going to set boundaries because boundaries are healthy. I am going to set boundaries about who I share space with, who I commune with, because everybody is not prepared to greet me with the same respect and the same devotion that I have for them. And so if you don't have that type of respect and devotion and loyalty and compassion and understanding, I'm not going to make space for you. It's not me exalting myself above you. It's not me thinking I'm better than you. It's me wanting reciprocity, and it's me carrying myself in a way that demands it. Amen, a woman. And right now, it's time to really think about the ways in which we are alike versus the ways in which we're different. We have different needs, and we can express those needs without necessarily having to divide ourselves. And what I need from my government, what I need from institutions that claim to be educating us, what I need from workspaces are things that help me feel whole and to be able to celebrate and express that connection without shame or condemnation or harassment or persecution. This is the age of Aquarius, where things start coming together, where everything starts blending together. Let's start reframing our communication. I understand what rejection feels like. I understand what exile feels like. This is counterproductive. This is counter collective healing. A lot of heterosexual people are doing the work of wholeness, but that work of wholeness is not inclusive of beings who identify with those letters, who identify within the queer community. You do not see them at the table. You do not see them present. And so how are y'all really trying to have us to evolve? How are y'all really trying to have us to collectively heal if you're creating spaces that speak to wholeness and honoring the mother and the father and honoring the divine masculine and the divine feminine within ourselves, but you are not bringing people to the table who are actually in practice of that? And for the queer community, it has to be a language that speaks to people intimately, that speaks to people's soul. And this language that's being manufactured by the machine in order to get grants is not it. 9 times out of 10, if funders understand it, it's not it. Lelem Lila Nation, Purple Ones, rise.